So today we are pleased to have joining us from the West Coast of the United States, the documentary filmmaker Matt Landman, producer of the film Franken Skies. So welcome, Matt. It's good to have you in the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So chemtrails are also known as geoengineering, is the intentional intervention in the Earth's natural systems to offset climate change. Chemtrails specifically are the spraying of toxic chemicals from the planes in our skies. The spraying is ongoing and has been specifically prevalent since 1992. The chemicals being sprayed are primarily aluminum, barium, strontium, titanium, cadmium, mercury, and lithium. Many people deny this ongoing program. So, cognitive dissonance, along with the controlled narrative through the media and disinformation campaigns, are primary reasons why many are still unaware of the lies in our skies. So, there are many resources available on actual activists. So, Matt Landman's website to reveal the hidden truth.
Yes. Are you there? Yeah. So where are y'all located?
Ecuador.
Ecuador, we're based.
And how long have you been there? You're from there?
Where I'm from California, he's from Egypt.
I'm from Egypt. I've been
How
living
long have you
here for living and working for 9 years now.
Okay. And how long I'm sorry, what is your name on the from California?
I'm from California. My name's Patrick.
Oh, hey Patrick. Where in California?
Humboldt County,
Oh, where in Humboldt?
Eureka.
Cool. Yeah, nice. I went to school at HSU in Arcata, and then I stuck around and lived there for a while. But so you know about sure. So when did you all? We can go back and forth, of course. But I want to know how long have you been in Ecuador? You said,
I first came
Patrick.
to Ecuador in 2008, uh, lived in Peru for a few years. I went back to the US in 2013 and then returned to Ecuador in 2017. Interesting, Matt, that you mentioned Eureka. It sounds like we have some common knowledge about Humboldt County because when I went back uh, to Eureka, I saw the overhead spraying. And for me, as someone who's traveled all around the United States, lived in different parts of the United States, I've never seen it as bad as in Eureka. And we were supposed to have blue skies. You'd see it like the mornings in May. There wouldn't be a cloud in the sky, and then the airplanes would come and they start spraying. And if you can see them spraying and then they lay out the cloud cover, you got to figure they're doing it the same thing at night or when it's raining, and you'd never know if that mist that would roll in about 5 o'clock if it was real or not. And it's crazy, and that's why we want to have you on the show. You've done the film Frankenskies. How did you get into documentary filmmaking? What made you want to focus your attention on geoengineering?
Well, that's a great question. I wanted to get into filmmaking. I never knew it was going to be about the reason why I was asking you all about like timelines and how long you've been in different places is because some people are new to waking up and some people are not. And for some people, it's been like a long, long journey, you know. For me, the first puzzle piece was like 9/11. And the reason why I was able to wake up to 9/11 was documentary movie, documentary film.
Sure, sure.
And I grew up in Virginia, and someone it was I grew up in Virginia, went to Virginia Tech, and then I ended up going to Humboldt to get my master's degree and to go to film school. So I got a film degree, and I already had it in my past that like Loose Change was the movie, and then
Sure.
later on Zeitgeist. which I rewatched Zeitgeist, and I'm like a new person. We changed, we evolved so much. Like I'm not the person I used to be. I was so much more naive, and now Zeitgeist is it's a great movie. It's still a great movie. I'm not trying to talk bad about it, but I see it through a totally different lens. You know, like some of it I don't even really agree with. Like before, I was just so enamored by the truth. You know, and I got into filmmaking thinking. I had this passion that I wanted to make movies, and I like movies, and so I was making shorts and stuff, um, early and doing like film competitions and stuff when I was like a
Yeah, that's what
teenager in my
film
20s and
students
stuff.
do. 5 minute films. Yeah.
Yeah, 48-hour film festival and stuff like that, where you have to make a movie really in a short amount of time. There's like competitions and whatnot, and I never knew I was going to end up becoming an activist or making a movie or movies. I'm working on a sequel as well, and I'll be making more. Even I'm thinking about making one on EMF, radiation, 5G, and all that. 'Cause 5G, big puzzle piece, including the
Yeah,
chemtrails.
we want to talk about
Um,
that today because we know you're up on that. But for people that
yeah,
might be new to the question of geoengineering and overhead spraying, can you kind of tell us what they'll find when they watch Frankenskies and a little bit about the title, curious title, Frankenskies.
yeah. Frankenskies is like Frankenstein. For people that don't know about Frankenstein, it was a mad professor. He uh, got a dead body and brought it back to life through lightning bolt. And the guy, his Frankenstein creation was like other pieces of bodies cut together and stuff like that. And obviously soulless monster, and he became like a monster and like went into the town and like they
Yeah.
all had to come and kill it, right? So Frankenstein had been used in the GMO movement, which the GMO movement I'm gonna go on a little tangent, but it's important if you don't
Sure,
mind.
sure.
People ask me, I get a lot of, so I've been in this for a decade now, like 10 straight years after making Frankenskies, and I've really spearheaded the geoengineering movement, holding the conferences and whatnot, and hosting a big protest in London coming up on summer solstice in Hyde Park in London. On the longest day of the year, we're going to honor the sun because they're dimming the sun, you know, and they're trying to block it and whatnot. It's going to be a big deal. We do it every single year in London and try to do simultaneous city protests around the world. People come to me and they ask me what can be done. There's nothing can be done. Nobody's gonna, nobody's waking up and what have you. And activism needs hope. And hope comes with momentum and all these sort of things. And people don't get it because honestly, we're all traumatized after the lockdowns and what have you. Like we're all in a different place, but
Yeah,
still,
sure. A lot of people have woken up though as a result of these things.
this is true, and we can ride that momentum. And I'm really glad that Frankenskies was available for people during the lockdowns because that was really important. But some people don't know what to do, right? And what I think the recipe is this. And people are worried that not enough people are going to wake up to chemtrails, but it's like this. 10, 20 years ago, people didn't know about Monsanto or GMO. They didn't know. And there's activists that got really involved, even in Southern Humboldt. And some people lost their lives even because Monsanto
Yeah,
got
I was
dirty.
friends with Bud Rogers. I don't know if you
Yeah,
know.
I know Bud Rogers. I've been on his show a couple times.
Yeah, so actually the GMO issue and geoengineering are related because
Very much.
if they know what kind of weather they're going to have in the future, they can make a lot of money selling crops like the Monsanto aluminum resistant corn
Hmm.
and the weather warfare. You see, if you go back to the 60s, you can read when the government openly talked about controlling the weather as an instrument of war. What I'm wondering is if geoengineering for climate change has kind of merged with this whole kind of weather weapons, and now they're using climate change to sell the arming the climate as an instrument of war. Do you see these things connected at all?
Yeah, you nailed it, and that's exactly what's going on. And who would have thought that weather warfare, weather engineering, and waking up to weather engineering would be the most important thing for humanity because it is the puzzle piece that connects everything, but also it is like the thing that's being used to push a narrative that's designed to for more or less enslave humanity, 15-minute cities and control of humanity and whatnot. But it starts with fear, and it's classic problem reaction solution. Problem is superstorms and drought and fires and all these things. All of them, all the different things, the supposed global warming, the climate change, each one, if you listed them all out, drought or flooding or whatever it may be, they're all engineered through this well-engineered machine that they've created. And if we watch Frankenstein, to answer your question that you asked, what do people expect to watch if they watch Frankenstein? It's a historical chronological timeline of the events. It's not a cheesy documentary like with someone's voiceover trying to get you to walk in their shoes or what have you. It's the facts and the history. I was able to find historical footage from the U.S. military industrial complex. Starts at the 1920s. The patents go back to like the 1890s. So you can look up on your trusted search engine 175 patents proving geoengineering and weather engineering to be real. 175 patents exist. The patents go back, and you have them on available on my website, like you mentioned, my website, Actual Activists. There's a section for the chemtrails, geoengineering. There's a portion for patents, but also yeah, the patents that go back all the way to the 1800s that tell the story. So the Frankenstein movie tells the story through footage and history and shows you how, come 1960s, the weather was already weaponized. They were flooding the Ho Chi Minh Trail and Operation Project Popeye. And
Sure.
for
Yeah.
years, the U.S. Air Force cloud seeded and made the monsoon season extended in more drastic and flooded parts of Vietnam. It severely impacted civilians and all this stuff, and it was not a conspiracy. The entire world came together, the United Nations came together, and they had to do a vote to pass laws after that war ended. And they vote unanimously. All the countries in the world that were in the United Nations, I believe it was like 56 countries, they all came together and voted no, and it was unanimous. Every single country voted to ban weather warfare. But they had a caveat that, look, if you're going to do it on your own turf, we can't stop you. And for research, you can do it to yourself, to your civilians, because they never thought that they'd start doing it to themselves to this extent. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
and that's one of the things that in these debates we hear about NATO, which has been on the news a lot lately, the future of NATO. They don't talk about the fact that if you're a NATO country like France or Germany, Spain, you get sprayed and sprayed and sprayed. Um,
It's true.
So
People
yeah.
people ask where it is more, and I think the NATO countries definitely get it more. That's what I wanted to ask. Since you've been aware of it for some time, and how long have you all both been aware? Like, when did you all both wake up to
I
chemtrails? I'd love to hear it.
I became involved through 9/11 and then started hearing about weather manipulation in 2003, 2004, 2005.
Whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
Living in Portland, Oregon, it was radio shows like Coast to Coast where I first heard about Scott Stevens, weatherman, and then Nick Begich read Angels Don't Play This Harp. Started looking into harp, and I know we want to get into some of the specifics about actually how they do it.
Yeah,
Exactly. In
let's
fact,
do
Patrick has
that.
been
That's great,
telling me
Patrick.
more.
That's great that you know those people and know those names. I'm really
But let's step back.
yeah.
What is climate engineering?
Yeah, happily. But firstly, I had Scott Stevens, who you mentioned in my movie. He was like a whistleblower meteorologist, weatherman, who like woke up to chemtrails and was talking about it. Climate engineering is so there's all these terms: solar geoengineering, solar radiation management, climate and intervention, climate engineering, albedo modification, geoengineering. There's so many words. Then there's like synonyms like for NASA they have the Charged Aerosol Release Experiment and they just call it CARE, C-A-R-E. In the United Kingdom they have a program, an aerosol program with the acronym SATAN, Satan, stratospheric aerosol
Is this classified,
troposphere.
Matt? Sorry.
No, it's just it's like it's hidden in plain sight. You just got to look it up. It's just like they don't use all of the key words like chemtrails, but it's like look up UK aerosol Satan, and it's just like boom, NASA CARE CARE, boom, it's right there. And in the
It's
CARE
interesting
program
that they also, when people like David Keith talk about spraying sulfur in the
Mm,
sky, we associate sulfur with in the
volcano.
inferno with L also. It's like
And besides the overhead spraying, what are other forms of geoengineering the planet? Like Patrick and I have been talking about also HAARP. So what is HAARP?
Right. What is HARP? That's another acronym. And to answer your question, sorry, these things are so
X-rad
layered. To answer,
transmitters.
Yeah,
what is climate engineering? It's altering the weather through different means, like spraying aerosols into the sky and what have you. So, and what they do, what is done is metallic aerosols are sprayed in the sky and they mix them together. So one drone, say, will spray an aerosolized aluminum and then or aluminum, however you say it, and then another one will spray barium. And as those two mix together, they'll use a ground-based station like NextRad or HARP, HAARP, which are antenna arrays so an array of antennas. So some of them are big and some of them are small, and we'll talk about that. And they use that technology to microwave the sky where the metal dust was sprayed. So then you can create weather patterns with that. So if you watch the weather on the news and they have like high and low pressure, in the States there's like H's and L's. And then the H means high pressure, which means hot air, but like rising air. And H's and L's dictate everything. You have rising and crashing air and cool fronts and whatever, but they'll hit each other and create storms. And if you can control those by making the H's, by making hot air, by microwaving the sky, then you can make weather, and that's like the very like simple explanation of it. So
mhm.
HARP is an antenna array in Alaska, and you mentioned Nick Begovich, who's an author. Angels Don't Play That harp. Interesting, like rabbit hole if you start to like look into all these different characters. As I went to see him speak, and people asked about chemtrails, and he said Um, he didn't believe in chemtrails, but then later it was exposed that he may actually be a controlled like limited hangout, like he's controlled opposition or whatever. But I'm not here to talk about all that. But it's very fascinating, like all of it because the guy who wrote the book was not he was only honoring certain information and kind of keeping that a tight lid on that, which is how they keep everyone in the dark on the subjects. So the HARP antenna array, it stands for the Highly Active Auroral Research Program. And they use this technology to make modern day, they use this technology to make northern lights, aurora borealis everywhere. And that's something that people need to realize and wake up. So that's the whole thing. But we
And
can talk
HARP
about
has been
that
implicated in earthquakes, in
that
tsunamis, and
too.
hurricanes, all these
Right.
extreme weather events that are somehow blamed on global warming. And then they call for overt climate engineering. Um, I've probably read at least a dozen, maybe 20, maybe 30 articles in mainstream science magazines, from Smithsonian to National Geographic to BBC, advocating for overt geoengineering as a technological solution to climate change. It's almost like they're trying to get the new generation asking for it and accustomed to the idea so that 30, 40 years from now, they can just say, nope, we started to do this a long time ago. Uh, what do you think about the brainwashing of the young and teaching them about new clouds. These clouds, that's all the young people now have ever known if you're in the United States or Canada or a NATO country.
Well, they have, you talk about the brainwashing, it's so indoctrinated through the media and the cartoons and everything, you name it, normalized, that what's going on in the sky is normal, but the future geoengineering to save us from supposed climate change is going to look just like what our sky looks like now, but it's
They say
not,
this. They say the
right?
throwing aerosols out of the backs of jets. And in a place like Eureka, California, where they're doing zigzags and loops and back and forth all day,
Mhm.
it's outside of any commercial flight path. Uh, so
That's
you know it's got to be military or drones. But a question a lot of people ask me is about the commercial aircraft, if there's contaminants that are being left, because we never saw this when I was a kid. Is there contaminants in the jet fuel? A lot of questions.
Mm.
Uh,
So I want to speak to that, but what I want to circle back and say, there's people getting degrees in geoengineering. So there's people going to university, getting college diplomas in geoengineering, becoming geoengineers. And you go to the library, and even the kids' books are like, you can become a geoengineer. So it's like fully indoctrinated in like they're gonna be doing it, but they're not like necessarily telling everyone they're doing it. And then it's not in the commercial jets. That's a big controlled narrative to get everyone confused. And so it's hard for
not
people to
in the
really
commercial jets.
no, to my understanding, it is not in the commercial jets. So I can explain, but it's like such a very well oiled conspiracy. So NASA has a budget of about $90 million US publicly per day. So per day, NASA has a $90 million budget. They have a chemtrail program. There's also the Department of Energy that shoves money into this program, and that's a very long conversation as well. The dirty oil and coal, the coal burning. They take that coal fly ash and use that in the chemtrail constituents. But just like in rental cars, how they have a rental car aftermarket and people can go buy like a car that says the rental car logo on it. There's an aftermarket for airplanes for different airlines. So the chemtrail spraying people, people don't like to hear the word they, but they get these planes and have them marked like they're passenger jets. So sometimes people will see passenger jets being sprayed, and they'll be like, but it lines up with my flight app. That flight app is controlled by these trillionaires that are
It reminds me
running
of
this.
the CIA, how they use the airplanes for the drug trafficking.
And also, who in the world is praying?
Yeah, and now they're spraying. It is the CIA still doing it. They're very smart. They're very smart with it all, and they get people chasing these rabbit holes. Like it's in the fuel, it's in the planes. Just go to your local airport. It's not local airport. So where I live in Ashland, Oregon, I live in a valley, and I lived in Arcata, California, just over Humboldt Bay from Eureka, and that's where I first woke up to geoengineering. I was working on a farm and it was 2014, and I was working on a farm in the Arcata Bottoms, Warren Creek Organic Farm. They're at the farmers market in Arcata, and we witnessed like we were supposed to get this huge storm that was supposed to alleviate the drought that we're in. And I was out there harvesting pumpkins. It was early October, expecting a full-on 100% deluge, and all these planes showed up and grid marked the sky, just gridded the sky. And I just learned the word chemtrails from a friend on the phone because I was venting to him about nobody knowing about 9/11 truth. And he was like, cut them some slack. They're kids, but chemtrails are in everyone's face. And I hadn't heard the word before. So someone just like planted that seed. But then I witnessed it firsthand. And when
What
you see
airports are they
it,
coming from? Sorry, what airports are they
yeah,
coming
yeah,
from?
that's a great question. What did you say? NATO bases of sorts. They have secret bases, Air Force bases, and then they have like secret bases. This program is very massive. And like there's a quote by like J. Edgar Hoover, like conspiracy is so large, people won't and can't admit that they could possibly be
Yeah.
true because they're so
Well,
massive,
there's a Humboldt County does have a naval base, and it's a secret naval base on the Lost Coast. But that's always the question I have is, but do you think that with the Trump administration, we may see a move to curtail this? I know some people that are working closely with him, like RFK Jr., have actually spoken out about this issue. RFK Jr. had Dane Wigington on his podcast. Do you think that Trump even knows? Maybe they're not even in control. What are your thoughts about the current political leadership and this issue? The Pete Hegseth, the head of the Pentagon, he came out a couple days ago and said that the U.S. military isn't going to be involved in any climate change programs because outside. Are they naive? Do they not know? Any thoughts? I know you're not a fan of Trump, but we'd like to hear your take on on all this.
I'm not a fan of any politician. Nowadays, they're all puppets. I don't know who the last like good one was. Maybe JFK, I guess, if we're gonna just like lump it all together. But if they've made it that far, nowadays, just like celebrities and such, like you gotta sell your soul nowadays. It's sad, but true. But anyways, I mean, in a lot of industries, even the music industry, if you want to get really large, you have, but whatever. But people are compromised. Humanity is kind of being compromised and hijacked. Um, the chemtrails. Okay, so last time Trump was in office, it was the same exact song and dance, like verbatim, and people just forget. People forget because Biden, yeah, was sucked. But by design, everything was by design. So Biden let all this like trans stuff get all crazy, and then Trump is like, "I'm gonna stop all that trans stuff." It's like there's people pulling the strings, and maybe they don't even deserve the title people above Trump and whoever, all the world leaders just about are compromised. They're compromised and they all bow to like higher evils that are pulling strings. And it's all, tr in the end, if you really take a big step, it's all very much spiritual warfare to a transhumanism end. And transhumanism is like a very weird singularity dystopia that pure evil AI wants, and it's like it's
Yeah.
humanity versus that. And it's like anything that's pushing towards that is anti-human, and the Trump administration is pushing towards that. When Trump got into office last time, everyone said that he had stopped this chemtrail spraying. And then when everyone kept seeing the spraying, there was like Q Anonymous, like whatever, like if you believe in Q or not, but Q was like Trump changed the ingredients and other like facets of the conspiracy. It's all CIA driven, but other like his facets on the online communities, like
Yeah.
Trump
Mhm.
changed the ingredients. You remember that? So
Yeah.
that was ages ago, like 5 years ago, but or something. But like Trump changed the ingredients, so now the chemtrails are good. But then that like lost its appeal for after a little while. But no, Trump's not going to slow anything down. To answer your question, does he know about it? Surely he must. But maybe he's in the dark. I mean, I was in the dark for a long time, and like I thought I knew everything. Like I like literally thought I was like so aware of things, and how little did I know? So like, could he be in the dark? Possibly. Could other politicians be in the dark? Possibly. They're on a need to know basis, just like everyone else. The CIA coming out and saying we're not going to do climate change stuff, they know very well that they're already doing it. So I'm not giving them the benefit of the doubt. And that kind of narratives, those narratives, you got to look at everything nowadays. Every single thing that comes out, everything, no matter what it is, even if it's like, is that image AI, which I hate having to be like that. But everything that comes out, you have to ask yourself, who is this serving? Is this creating a debate? Who is this serving? What is this doing? You know what I mean? And then you
I
can see, oh, well,
Yes.
that came from this angle. This probably got created from this angle to create to do that. Like if it's creating some sort of debate or distraction, there's so many different ways to confuse society.
And what kind of reaction has your documentary generated?
Oh, it's been amazing. I felt like it was like divinely guided. I really wanted it to come out in 2015, and I was like shaking my fist at the sky. But it couldn't come out until like a few things happened in the world. So there was like kind of like divine intervention, like keeping it from happening. Especially in 2016, I was like, what's happening? How is this possible that I'm having all this bad luck to make this movie for the good of humanity, right? But I didn't know that in like around spring of 2017, maybe fall 2016, that the mainstream was going to come out and start talking about geoengineering as a solution to climate change. Before that, geoengineering was a conspiracy word. Like it was like,
Yeah,
oh, chemtrails, geoengineering. Oh yeah, those two words are conspiracies.
yeah.
They're synonymous.
The mainstream has really started pushing for geoengineering.
And has the environmental movement been co-opted?
Yes, the environmental movement has been co-opted. Like Greenpeace was like talking about how they're a fan for geoengineers. Really sad. How has Frankenstein been received? Very well worldwide. I never knew that it would get so well. Like I've got it translated into a dozen languages and on every platform. And like it got pulled from YouTube where it had all the views at first, and it gets pulled whenever it gets really big. But then I'll find it like blowing up in Romania with millions of views, or like having a big traction in Czechoslovakia, and then I'll go
Millions
and
of
do a show
views.
over there.
Wow,
Yeah, it's probably had about 100 million views worldwide since 2017.
that's
And
huge.
I got really lucky. Humanity got really not, I mean, I don't want to say humanity got really lucky, but we got all during the lockdowns, no one had anything to do. So that movie was available. So I'm really glad that it was available then. And so that gave a lot of people the opportunity to wake up to chemtrails because they
Mm.
couldn't go out to the pub and what have you. And now there's like a big awakening in the UK. I've been noticing. I've had a lot of traction over there, and I'm going to Scotland to have a protest, the first chemtrail protest, hosting a
Yeah,
big rally
yeah,
in London, like I
our
said.
friend Billy Watson. I don't know if you know Billy Watson.
Love him. I met
Yeah,
him in Edinburgh at the first Scotland protest, and I was just on his show, and he's great.
yeah.
Talk to him today
So,
on email.
so I'm really interested in how the environmental movement has evolved because being from Humboldt County, it's ground zero for the redwood trees. So there's always been a lot of environmental activism around saving the trees, and then the whole cannabis thing also made it Humboldt County very centered around activism. But I've seen this weird transformation of groups like Greenpeace and the Sierra Club, where now you'd think they would care about having clean air and clean water and clean soil, and the fact that they don't touch this issue. I remember the like COINTELPRO, where the CIA actually infiltrated the popular movements of the 1960s, sort of like how the anti-war movement didn't want to have anything to do with 9/11 truth. Um, and they function as gatekeepers. Yeah, has the environmental movement been co-opted? And have you seen how it's changed? What's the future of environmentalism?
You're awesome. You're on it. I love that. That was great with everything COINTELPRO. Yes, Sir Patrick. It's been heavily hijacked. It's like BlackRock and these big entities that have unlimited money. They can fund pretend activists across the board. I've had to engage with a lot of them even. And sadly, if you've got a lot of money, you can just create these like NGOs, nonprofits, and pretend to be something you're not. And it works out in your favor. For instance, going back to the how the Department of Energy has a chemtrail spraying program. You can look up the tropospheric aerosol program of the Department of Energy, and this is like hidden in plain sight. It's documented. It's on my website, actualactivists.com. But the ones that are doing the polluting of the world, the coal and the oil companies, they're getting rich, but they also have all this money. So they're like, okay, well, first we'll fund environmental groups. So then will control the opposition, like literally controlled opposition. It's a word, but they'll like because they're making billions and trillions of dollars worldwide, and not to mention like energy's like free with like other means. So like if something comes out, they'll go and like gobble it up too, like a water powered engine or something or something. They'll buy up the competition and stuff because they're just like a monster at this point. And they have lobbyists and they're just like so then in 2001, right before 9/11, they started this program, the tropospheric aerosol program. This Department of Energy does this. It's part of the air, part of the um, atmosphere is the troposphere, the closest one to us. So they started this
Sorry,
program to
sorry.
start.
Why are they doing this though? When they started in the 90s, they weren't so concerned about climate change. Was this some sort of a military application? What was the rationale behind getting this overhead spraying off the ground?
Well, they have long-term plans, these like evil boardrooms. So the tropospheric. So really quick, the tropospheric aerosol program is set up, and in this like initial launch, the last page of the document, 100-page document that you can find if you just know how to find it on the internet, it has a table of expenditures, and they spend $5.5 million on detection aversion, not being found out, and risk assessment, like not getting caught doing what they're doing. They're
I'm sorry,
spending 5
what's the
million.
name of this program
Tropospheric aerosol program,
here
TAP, tropospheric
here in
aerosol
the
program.
United States,
Yeah, through the Department of
run by
Energy.
NASA? Oh, Department of
No,
Energy.
Department of Energy. And they're like, and you watch like the I can't remember the name of the show on TV where the Department of Energy is like the boogeyman, but they are the boogeyman. But they're funding programs that will one day be used to save the day from climate change, which they're creating, but not through the oil and gas, but being blamed for the oil and gas making it. So they have this like whole long-term narrative, and it's like honestly the answer to your question is it depends on who you're talking to. If I can have like a deep spiritual conversation with someone, I'm like, these are long-term Satanists. They're like literally like Aleister Crowley and these like Satanists and like the way that the world is right now with D-Wave and like whatever, like AI and everything, and even Elon Musk and what have you, there's some real evil going on, and it's through like the Bohemian Grove and then the Bilderberg Group and all these different things happening all at once, Club of Rome and everything. And the end game is like control of the destiny of humanity, which I think there's actually resets if you start looking at Tartarian stuff where they couldn't control the destiny of humanity. So they want like complete control. Does that mean financially? Yes. Does that mean evolutionary? I think so. Does it mean spiritually? I think so. I think it's very layered, but it depends on who you're talking to. I'm not going to tell my grandma that they're trying to turn us into robots. I'm just
Yeah,
not.
it's interesting because we look for rational motivations from leaders that we assume are good, but when we talk about people like Hitler and Stalin, we don't ask why they did what they did. We assume that they're crazy. I think this also gets to the issue of the cognitive dissonance because Americans have this fairy tale view of their leaders and the government, and they don't want to believe that they would be doing something just for the sake of being evil. You talk about controlling humanity, controlling the destiny of the world, but if they keep fumigating our skies, we're not going to have a world left because you know the Mother Nature cannot sustain this level of assault.
Exactly. Exactly.
They,
Tell us about
they
your research into how EM waves affect the human body. Your research, like,
Yeah, and
oh wow.
explain the dangers of the cell
yeah,
phone and Wi-Fi radiation.
Okay, I can do that. But let me just back up really quick. First
sure.
off, to see the whole puzzle of the control of the groups, you have to see that like Greta Thunberg is controlled and trying to control the youth. Even Al Gore and his documentary and his book, all and saying sea level is rising and we're all doomed. Sea level is not actually not rising. That's a farce. But yeah, we can segue into EMF radiation. Um, what was the question? What is it or what?
You've researched a lot
Yeah.
into the
EM waves.
EM waves and their
Yeah.
effect on the human body, haven't you?
Yeah, I started a company even to block them with like shielding clothing made out of silver and have like grounding things and stuff like that. But I learned about it through smart meters because I got like injured by one, and that's all I feel like all in divine order too. It's like it sucks. I have like a sensitive like heart from it now, but it's like it had to happen because I didn't even know what a smart meter was then, right? And so
Right.
I was working on Frankenskies. I was living in Canada, and I didn't know that there was a smart meter like 4 feet, like 1 meter or something from where I slept and worked. It was like right on the other side of the wall. And smart meters have electric fields and also magnetic fields, and they can like injure you if you're near them, and they emit signals like a cell tower. And so I ended up becoming really electrically sensitive, and like I couldn't even touch my phone. I'd get like zapped by it. I was so sensitive to electricity, and I started learning about it, learn about grounding. Grounding is very real. They like try to demonize it through like the words tree hugger. That's part of the control campaign, is like the media and all of it. Like the word tree hugger is like demonized, but that's
Tinfoil
really
hat. Yeah.
yeah,
Tinfoil
tinfoil
hat.
hat. Exactly, exactly. So I've learned a lot about EMF and Wi-Fi, and then subsequently 3G, 4G, 5G. I don't even have a cell phone anymore because of the 5G and what have you. And having learned about it all, I've actually been able to become like an activist through my company, which I wanted to not have to work in some sort of matrix job or whatever. Like I worked in a lot of cannabis and what have you, and then had a good degree so I could work in management or farming or whatever. And it's all nonsense if you're not working for yourself, in my opinion. So eventually I was able to make these Faraday foam bags. And this too, I mean, I talk about things being in divine order and whatnot. If you don't believe in that, then it's okay. But like this also, like the universe aligned because I came into someone who was trying to make their own like EMF clothing, and I started learning that there is fabric for EMF stuff, and I started making my own blackout foam bags. And then I went to Asia and sourced these really great blackout foam bags where you put your phone in the bag and it blackouts the signal because of the silver or copper. Like there's only a few materials that are dense enough to block signal. Steel, copper, nickel, silver, and lead. And you can't really make like lead clothing, and copper's too brittle, so you end up making silver clothing because it can like deflect it. But these blackout foam bags that I made, just perfect, absolute perfect timing. Like who could have predicted the future? I made them in 2018, was selling them all around the world. I've gone on coast to coast like 8 times. It's a big radio show, and like I'm selling these foam bags. And then all of a sudden, March 2020, when we had lockdowns, my phone bags stopped working because the 5G frequency got turned up so much. It was penetrating all the phone bags. And I started having to troubleshoot. I didn't understand what was going on. And especially people with like newer phones, they weren't getting like new phones. It was just the phones were upgrading software, becoming 5G. And it was like penetrating these phone bags, whereas they wouldn't before. And I had
Interesting,
to up,
interesting.
yeah, and
So
I had to
5G
upgrade
has
my
been
phone
rolled
bags.
out. 5G has been rolled out in the US.
Oh yeah, majorly, and it got everyone sick around the world in March 2020, and a lot of that was blamed on something else, and it was actually 5G getting people sick, but people
You
didn't
know, we've
realize
been
it.
having these wildfires in California and Oregon every few years. Say they've never seen wildfires like this that burn hotter and longer. Is there a geoengineering component to these wildfires?
100%. So not only do they create the winds over the fires, but they can precipitate lightning storms with their technology, and they do. But also, more importantly, they can make rain over the fires, and they don't. But also, a really huge part of the puzzle is the constituents of the sprays. So you grew up in Humboldt, right? I lived there for like a decade. Oftentimes I'm like on a hike and I'm just seeing them spray over the forest. And I'm like, there's not even people here. What are they doing? It doesn't rain the next day or anything. Like usually it's on the edge of a weather pattern. And I'm like, oh, I'll give them credit. They're just trying to engineer the weather. But why are they spraying it on the forest? Well, come to find out, the constituents are aluminum oxide, barium salts. Those two things are used in fireworks, they're used in explosives. They're literally fire accelerants. They make fires explode. So they've been spraying these things on the forest systematically for decades to make this agenda happen right here, right now that we're witnessing, which is scare the crap out of everybody, saying global warming, push people out of towns, and even burn down cities and stuff.
Build
And
back
all,
better, push them into the smart cities. Where have you been where the spraying was worse than anywhere else, where you noticed there was just more spraying than anywhere else? For me, it was Eureka, California.
right. And people ask that, like, where is it good, where isn't it? And I want to hear how it is in Ecuador. Um, it's been in like the, I guess, I think it's higher consciousness places, but Eureka's on the edge of the atmospheric river, and they have to manage the weather there. I've seen it horribly in Arcata and Eureka. Also, Sedona, Arizona, out of control. And where I live in Ashland, Oregon, there's a major airport where we live, an international airport, and all the planes going to the airport don't leave any sort of trails. And then there's these planes that go the opposite direction, and they go like over to Klamath Falls, which is like 50 miles, which is like some Air Force base, and they go to some other place that's like 50 miles over there, like Mount Shasta area. And they just keep going back and forth to two secret bases, like almost every day, like horribly gridding our skies. We live in a valley too, and I think it's an experimental valley. There was like a Freedom of Information, like investigative report in Medford. So Medford is our Eureka, and then Ashland's a little bit more like Arcata. But in Medford, which is right in the valley, the Rogue River Valley, in Southern Oregon, USA, there was and this is well documented actually. They even did like a series, investigative series. There was a high suicide rate, and they did a whole investigation, and it came to find out that there was frequency warfare because the valley they could put the US Army was using frequency to test the population, and people were really depressed from it because you can
Wow.
triangulate from the mountain ridges and hit the valley, and they were just making people depressed in Medford to the point that it had the highest suicide rate in the country. It's like, okay, sure, that's not
So,
nice.
I came to Ecuador in 2008 when I was 33 years old. And one of the reasons was I wanted to live in a country that didn't have a US military base. And the president at the time, Rafael Correa, he had given notice for the US military base to leave. Their lease ran out in 2009. So they packed up and went. And of course, I've never seen chemtrails. I do have the question about whether uh, uh, I had the question, which you answered for me, about whether commercial flights left trails, but it's you don't see it. You don't see airplanes doing zigzags and loops all the time. Uh, you know when I first got into looking at the skies, I didn't notice that commercial aircraft left trails, but uh, you're saying that they don't. I mean, I saw this advertisement a couple days ago for Airbus, and they showed that the chemtrails that they say is just ice crystals, but what I'm hearing from you is that these lines in the sky that fan out and leave a cloud cover. That's not commercial. That's military or drones. Is that correct? You're giving me
Yeah,
more
that is
clarity on this issue.
that is what my research has come to the conclusion of. Let me ask you, do you have like grid patterns in Ecuador, like
No,
X's and
no, no. And I'm in touch with Latin American and Spanish activists on this issue, and there's a lot of people that are up in arms about this over Spain. There's a really good Argentinian group that translates a lot of the information about this subject. They're called Cielos Toxicos, Toxic Skies, and they post a lot of photos from Argentina. I guess maybe Argentina has the grid patterns.
Mm.
But no, we have blue skies. So I feel like I growing up in the like I was growing up in the 80s and we had blue skies.
Wow.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, the lines in the sky that we're told that are like contrails and what have you, this is an old narrative. So in the 1960s and early 70s, the plane engines were not efficient and they burned hot. And even nowadays, they have engines on the back of like fighter jets, and those burn hot. They got to push a plane like off an aircraft carrier, so they burn hot. They push out hot air. But the normal jet airliners nowadays, passenger jets, they have what's on them called high bypass turbofan jet engines, right? And these things are 2 tons of titanium and steel. Um, they've evaporated into the windows of the World Trade Centers, but don't mind that because that never happens aside from that day. But these 2 tons of sarcastic, 2 tons of titanium and steel, they spin and it's a turbine spinning, creating lift over the wing. Okay. I liken it to a propeller spinning, making lift over a wing, just a very efficient encapsulated propeller. The wings are not full of jet fuel, like we're told. Like we're told that there's this really large amount of jet fuel, and if you do the math, like where's all that jet fuel, right? And where's it? How's it sloshing around when they take off and land and all that sort of stuff? We're pretty misinformed on the jet fuel thing, and I'm trying to expose all this in my sequel film. It's part of it. It's very important
And
because
then the airplane pilots must know that the airplane pilots must know that they're in on a scam.
no, they don't know. There's jet fuel put on the plane for it to take off and land because they need thrust then. But once you're at cruising altitude, there's air compressors. You can use air compressors to like generate spinning for the turbine to keep
Oh,
going to create the lift over the wing. But it's not blasting out hot air that like we're told. So
okay.
without the hot air, it can't make the condensation trail that we're told, and then the lingering condensation trail and this and that. And then when we see the short trails, those are either like military craft or it's barium and they're putting barium in the sky. But generally the lines in the sky are not coming from actual passenger jets. They're actually just
Sure.
not.
Well, like in
And so
California, it's so rural, and if you're on top of a mountaintop, because it's there's no flight path because. Okay, so we got a couple more minutes before we let
right.
you go. Can you give us a rundown of the film you're working on now? Is there a working title? How's it going to be different from your first film, Frankenskies?
If you need, I can go a little longer. I don't know how your format is, but Frankenskies 2 is I mean, like the first one was just like no one knew about it, and so many more people are waking up to it now. So it's like totally different world, you know, in a new environment. The first one was about the history and how we got to where we're at, and then released in 2017. They were just coming out with new fake cloud names and normalizing geoengineering in the media and what have you. We've gone a long way since then, and this one needs to have solutions. So one of the main solutions is taking care of your own self, so you aren't bogged down by the uh, constituents in the sprays, you know, because the aluminum toxicity in the brain, you can have Alzheimer's and dementia, which is now the number 1 cause of death in the UK. They get it really bad. They get a lot of chemtrails. So the number 1 cause of death now is dementia from the aluminum buildup in the people's brains. So we
And they
can
already have
prevent.
in the UK, they already have an overcast climate, don't they?
Mm. Yeah, and then they spray even more, and these people don't get any sun for like ages. It's really bad there. And then like even today for me, when the clouds parted, it was some crazy, weird, harped out chemtrail sky, like you said earlier about them doing it on top of the clouds. But it's important for people to understand about mineralization and also to avoid like big pharma as much as you can because statins, people are like through the mainstream, we're told that cholesterol is bad. And so then we start altering our diet and not eating cholesterol stuff. And then people are even on statins, which is a cholesterol drug. And these different heart medications like statins, they dry up the cholesterol that surrounds your brain, that protects your brain from the aluminum. So you don't want to be doing that. And that's going to be in the movie. I interviewed this Swedish naturopath just now in Idaho, and I'm really excited
Yeah,
about that.
we interviewed
Dr.
Sally
Karthel.
Fallon Moral. We
Yeah,
interviewed Sally Fallon
Oh,
Moral
last
cool.
year.
last year, talking about fats.
Nice. Yeah, very important stuff, you know? And yeah, all the fats
What
that
can
we're told
people
that are
do?
bad.
Like if somebody's watching this and they say, "Oh, we're screwed. There's nothing we can do." Can you give advice for people who want to be actual activists?
Well, yeah, I'm getting there. I'm definitely, and I love that question. Also, part of being an actual activist is taking care of your body, which I'm a big fan of mineralization through bioavailable plant-based minerals. So, like taking something like I take a sea moss bladderwrack burdock supplement, and it's all these bioavailable minerals. And then I'm not walking around like a sponge absorbing the toxins in my toxic environment because I'm up to speed on my minerals. If you're mineral deficient, your body's going to be like, I need, and then it's absorbing the radioactive cadmium into your bones because you don't have the magnesium and calcium in your bones because you're not taking care of your body. How people can become an actual activist is one day at a time. Through Hollywood and programming, we think that there's going to be a Superman that's going to come and save us. And all we got to do is help Superman. Or maybe get the superpowers and become Superman. But that's not reality. Reality is one day at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time. And becoming an activist is each day, what can I do? And you learn, you change, you grow, you adapt. The whole world changes and so do you. Everything shifts. And so you start with a sticker or something, or you know how to knit. So you knit something for truth. And then it changes, you know, because you get out in the world and you try to share it with the world. And, you know, what are you passionate for? Take that passion to the next level and try to bring it to the world and then just keep growing and changing. I mean, we do it with everything else, you know, like if it was our only sustenance, like if activism was like our only way to make money and survive, people would adapt and change and grow, and people would be driving around activist Ferraris, metaphor, you know? But it's like because it's like it's got to be from the heart, and because the indoctrination is so deep and our peers are oftentimes brainwashed and we don't want to stand out, people stand on the sidelines. But it's time to get off the sidelines, you know. Being the change is not a spectator sport, right? And people can't just stay spectators forever. So I encourage everyone to do what they can. And everyone can do something in their own way. And then it grows and it adapts and changes, you know. Yeah.
We want to have you back on the show sometime to talk about fluoride.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Let's do
Okay.
that. But really quick, I'll tell you, fluoride comes from the aluminum industry. So it's bonded to aluminum. So when they melt it and create aluminum cans or whatever, a byproduct, a toxic byproduct is that fluoride. So then the fluoride, it wants to bond to aluminum. It came from aluminum. It came from that. So then when you get the fluoride in your system from your toothpaste or whatever, and then you've got aluminum in your system from maybe your deodorant or the aerosols, then those two bond together in your brain and have a chemical reaction and bypass your blood-brain barrier because the fluoride knows how to pull the aluminum and pull it into your brain. So it's like a toxic combo. But we'll talk more about it on the next show, and I look forward to it.
It's a poison, literally poison, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a toxic byproduct of melting aluminum, and it's poisonous, and it's never been proven
Yeah.
safe. It's only been proven toxic. It
In
lowers IQ
Latin
in
America, it's
children,
in the
and
salt.
Yeah,
It's
we use it in the soul.
and it says it on the package. Yeah,
really,
crazy, huh? Yes.
for what reasoning?
For the dental cavities. The difference
The,
between the United States and Ecuador is in the United States, there is an alternative media. And even though people don't use it, at least that access means that people are aware that at least these things are controversial. And there are some people out there that don't agree with these things. But Latin America, it's very much like the United States in the 50s. And so they will never even have heard that there's even a debate about fluoride.
Yeah.
wow, well, that's hopeful and also sad. At least there is some choice. I feel like we at least have a little bit of choice, but we don't have choice in the aerosols being sprayed in our air, and that's that's why we need to stand up and do something about it. And like activism is just one day at a time. You know, I never thought I'd do all that I've done, and now I'm hosting protests and having conferences and coming out with another movie and all this. And I have my own podcast, and I'm going on, you know, your show, and it just takes having some initiative, right? Like you guys decided to make a podcast, and now you're reaching people, and like everyone can do something. It just takes giving it some energy, you know, and getting creative as if your life depended on it, because it does. You know, yeah.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Namaste.
Yeah, namaste. Very nice to meet you both, Ahmed, Patrick. Cheers.